So the last time I saw Corey Glover, I was at my studios, literally giving you the this, and you said, "Get up and do not genuflect because I am not comfortable with that." But that is how I feel whenever I see you, your presence, your aura, your talent, your everything. I am with Corey Glover. It is so incredible to see you, and I saw you last night at Summer Stage.
Yeah, yeah, we had a good time there. Had a
Ah,
real good time.
when you look out into the crowd and just everyone's singing every word to every song, and it's been a minute, since some of these songs came out and stuff. Does it still marvel you to get that energy back from everybody?
It is amazing to think that this sort of endeavor has lasted as long as it has. I am really sort of amazed by it all.
Yeah, I can imagine that kind of totally blows your mind. I'm looking out into the crowd last night and I'm just seeing everyone, kids and older people. And it
Right,
was just such a beautiful, amazing feeling. And then, of course, to still be able to get to see P Funk. So it was great to see you. And
right.
we're always happy to see you. John, it's nice to welcome you. John Jackson has a very difficult job, but you do it masterfully. And let me tell you why. Because I think preserving legacy is not always the easiest thing to do. There are a ton of moving parts. You've got to kind of keep everyone happy and you've got to keep the authenticity of that artist. You are part of the Bon Scott estate. So when people hear that, they're like, well, what does this guy do? But there's so much more than just kind of managing money and managing, there's a lot of things that you need to do to make sure that the legacy of this incredible artist stays intact and also is able to be introduced to future generations. Corey and I were just kind of discussing that and
Right.
saying it's so amazing to see these artists, move their legacy through the generations. So, John, you've got a very experience background in music and producing and being in bands and also being involved with the AC/DC camp. So, talk to me about the Bond legacy because there's nobody like Bon Scott.
I was fortunate enough to I worked at the Legacy division of 25 years, and during that time, I was lucky enough to work on the ACDC catalog. They brought it over from Warner's to Sony, and right around the time that they got into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they sort of had this career renaissance and built the Black Ice album and that giant tour and everything. So I really got to know.
Oh, we're losing you.
Yeah.
Sorry, the publishing people, the lawyers, the managers, all that stuff. And so when I ended up leaving during COVID and starting my own business, doing just this, the Bond's family was looking for somebody to help celebrate his 75th birthday at the time. So they asked me to help out, and and it's grown from there to doing cool merchandise and collaborations with different sort of companies, and get it topped off with the tribute shows, the birthday bash tribute shows. And for those we recognize that there was a sort of a hole in the market for an authorized tribute to Bon. A lot of people do them as sort of tribute bands and one-offs and stuff like that, and the family wasn't really happy with any of them, so they said, oh, can we do our own? And starting something like that from scratch is always a challenge. But we looked to the Jimi Hendrix folks, the Experience Hendrix team, and said, what they do with Jimmy, and obviously Corey's done that, several times,
Yes.
with our friend John McDermott, and what they do with Jimmy, how they have a lot of different guitar players come and sort of put their own spin on remembering Jimmy and his tribute and everything. So we said we'd do the same thing where we would just have a bunch of singers come down, great backing band, and everybody just does one or two songs. So obviously we're ungodly fortunate enough to have Corey join us this year. We've also got a ton of other folks, some from last year. We want to just keep it a fluid situation with the with the singers because you can't really have one person replace him.
We are super lucky, by the way, because we've got a New York City show. So the Bon Scott Birthday Bash comes to New York City, the Bowery Electric in New York City, Wednesday, July 9th. You can grab your tickets, by the way, via ticketweb.com. So, yeah, I noticed too, there's a great New York sensibility with the people that are on this bill. And does everybody kind of get to pick the song or request maybe a song? I heard a rumor that Corey's maybe lucky enough to be the Highway to Hell guy. Is that true?
Well, that's that. Yes, that's what we're going for.
Nobody better, man. Nobody better.
I know. It's the crowd favorite too. So that'll
Right.
be the big one. But
Basically, it
everybody,
means I don't have to do as much.
it's only two verses, Corey. So
Exactly.
yeah. But no, no. It's the weirdest thing is everybody has their own favorite. So like as soon as we had a bunch of people on board, everyone started saying, well, I want to do this and I want to do this. And nobody was overlapping with what songs they wanted to do.
Because that catalog is just, look, I'm a Bond kid. I explain to people sometimes, I was explaining to someone like young, and I'm probably dating myself, like what we did as kids. Okay. So we would go in the woods and drink beer nips and listen to AC/DC, Van Halen, Black Sabbath. And the kids are like looking at me like, you guys went in the woods? Why would you go in the woods? And I thought, well, because the woods was the coolest place to discover all of this incredible music. So I have a vivid memory, and I guess it was middle school, maybe going into junior high, of the day that Bon died, and we got the word of it in our school. Because we had the kids with the denim jackets, man. So our
Right.
kids had all the, they had the Rush jackets and the AC/DC jackets. And so we were rock kids. We grew up in Jersey on the New York border here as rock kids. That's what we did. That was our life and our entertainment. So I have that. There's certain people you remember where you were. I remember being in my bedroom when I heard about John Lennon and my parents told me. And I remember being a kid in school and hearing about Bon. There was no one like him. There never will be. His sensibility as a frontman and a vocalist, he's just, you can't compare him to anyone else. He had, this great comic timing, and he was his lyrical delivery of songs. There's just nobody you can even compare him to.
No, not at all. I mean, I don't know if we got the news about Bon that morning because it was like in the afternoon, wherever it was he was at. And it slowly sort of started to ratchet up. It's like, oh, I heard something happen. Oh, it's really bad news. It got worse and it got worse and it got worse. And by the end of school, obviously there was somebody outside in their car playing as much AC/DC as they possibly could at a volume that was ear splitting. That it was that kind of thing. And it left a lasting impression.
Yeah, yeah. It left a lasting impression on me as well. And I remember the kids that I was with when we were talking about it. And it was a very confusing time for the fans because there was like new music out, but then like more music coming, and then things were
Right.
being released. And then is the band going to continue? And
Right.
it all happened within like a very quick, like 2-year period of time. It was
Right.
like where it was just very confusing. There was a live record, and it was just like, what's kind of going on. I think the impact that he made, and I mean, he looked like a grown up to us, but 33
Right.
in 1980,
Right.
33 years old. I mean, it's mind blowing when you think about it now. Now, of course, the birthday bash, Bon would have been 79 this year.
Wow.
So next year is going to be the big 80th as well. So Corey, talk to me about when you first heard AC/DC. Where were you? Who were you with? Do you remember the song?
I was basically in high school in 1980. I was like a sophomore in high school at the time. And, you know, I had a bunch of friends that were like the rocker kids in school. And they knew everything. They got the fanzines. They got all the they got as mu- they were at the record store every other day buying all kinds of stuff and trying to find stuff. So, like I said, when and ACDC was something to see live, something you had to go see live. You had to that had to be a part of your sort of thing. Was you were no longer a virgin if you went to an ACDC concert, right?
You were legit. You were
Right.
legit. Yeah.
And
Yep.
unfortunately, I was not legit. I never got to see ACDC live. Um, so it was it was an ever present sort of thing, and to hear the band and MTV was just sort of burgeoning at that point, and you'd see ACDC videos like, yeah, I need to see this band. I need to see this band. I want to see this band. And like you were saying, in that 2 year period, like 82 by 1981, is like, is the band together? Is the band not together? What's going on? How are we dealing with this? What's happening? Are they going on the road? Are they making a record? Are they not making a record? Are they just using the stuff that Bond did and they didn't use? It was so much confusing stuff. But I knew that I had to go see them. I had to go see them. And that was an imperative. Um, but I'm very excited about this celebration. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. My friend Ivan Bodley, who plays bass with me in the Soul Experience, turned me on to this and got me involved, and I'm very, very excited, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well,
Bond he was a swashbuckler. Like he
Yeah,
was very, he was like not real. He just didn't look real. And you look at some of the footage. We are so blessed to have some of that like BBC footage. We're so
right.
lucky as rock fans to have things like the old gray whistle test and stuff that show us these bands, when they first came out. And there's some of that footage. I can't think of a front man who could hold a candle to Bon Scott in some of
Yeah,
that footage.
absolutely.
yeah. And I always say it's, really hard to write rock and roll songs about rock and roll.
Right.
And, he did it better than anybody has ever done it, will ever do it. The fact that, you could challenge people to write a song about beating people up, being hired to beat people up.
Right.
And it's like no one would do it in the way that he not only wrote the words, but delivered them as sort of
Oh,
like a character, but it was just all him.
yeah. When I was younger, and I'd hear ACDC is like, I like to sing rock and roll, but I can't do that.
Right, right.
You
No
know?
one could do that. No one can do it. And no one could deliver a song like him. And then to watch him visually, we didn't have, because he passed right at the time that MTV was starting. So what we got was what we got, and we never really got that much more, um, unfortunately. But, tightest pants.
Right.
Did he ever wear he never wore a shirt,
Never.
rarely wore a shirt.
Yeah.
Um,
Early like tattoos, like
Tattoos. Sometimes a tooth would be out. Who cares?
that's
Wasn't a
right.
big deal then. That didn't matter. And the cool thing was you'd be wondering, like, wow, why is he missing a tooth? Like, what happened last night? Did he fall? Did he punch someone? Did someone punch him back? Like, he just had such an aura around him as a rock star.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole band sort of portrayed that. Angus was. I thought Angus was amazing. It was the most amazing thing to a visual sort of
Oh,
thing to look at.
the best. The greatest. Look,
Completely.
all these years later, how many of these do I have?
Right.
I can go through the wardrobe, the short sleeves, the tanks, the long sleeves. I have every album.
Right.
I mean, it's just crazy because that's what you feel so proud. I can think of every artist in the world who's been to my station wearing an AC/DC shirt.
Right.
Every time I see Daryl from Run DMC, every time he comes to the station, he's got his AC/DC shirt on. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
the colors. It's the
Yeah.
colors of rock and roll, really.
Yeah.
And the logo, it's just that
Brilliant.
Yeah.
they hit it out of the park, first try.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So John, The AC/DC band has been very embracing of the Bon Scott legacy. And like I said, juggling and keeping everybody happy with a lot of moving parts going on. Sometimes in this day and age, that doesn't always happen. This person's pissed off about this. You're screwing us at that. We want this. You've really managed to keep it just, for lack of a better word, just super classy, and everybody's really happy. The family's happy, the band is happy, everybody is supportive. What has that been like for you preserving it in such a positive way?
Well, I think that's what you have to do. I mean, you have to, do the Cadillac version of it, or it's not worth it. And for AC/DC and any artist, we were lucky enough to do a couple of different like DVD sets, one of their music videos and one of live clips, one, Family Jewels and Plug Me In. And then we did the Backtracks box set, which was like, it looked like a guitar amp and it actually
So
is a
cool.
guitar amp. So yeah, we put all those together, and when they get the sense that you're going above and beyond, and really you know what you're talking about, and all the pictures are in the right order, and there's nothing that's out of the ordinary or anything. They, meeting with Malcolm and Angus at the time, and just saying, here's the layout for this, 100-page book that's going to come with you, and they're just looking through every page, going, wow, that's wow, I didn't remember that, and all this stuff. So I think as long as you know what you're doing and you do it right, it's an easy job. And if you don't, it's very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that it would be. And you worked with AC/DC for
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
while, as you
yeah. So
mentioned. So you were kind of part of that. So obviously they trusted you. Have you been out to this tour? Have you been
well,
out to
yeah,
see them?
I got to see it up in Foxborough, in
Oh,
Boston, and
Amazing.
it was unreal. I mean, Brian was singing like crazy. I mean,
Oh,
all of the sort of rumors you read online were just completely false. He's doing an amazing job. The new rhythm section was fantastic. Stevie's doing a great job of all the Malcolm stuff. So, they're as good as ever. And, I'm just praying that they decide to come back after this Australia thing that they've announced.
me too.
Because
Yeah, I'm just
I don't want
fingers
them to
crossed.
retire.
I know, I know. Fingers crossed that we get some kind of dates. Everyone's going, we got to get a New York date. We got to get a New York date. And I'm like, we will. And now I'm sitting here going, I kind of hope we get a New York date. So let's talk about, before I let you guys go, some of these great musicians that are going to be on this show. You've got Jimmy from Cactus, and you've got Dave from 10 Ton Mojo. There's some really, really cool, very authentic musicians on this show. So how did you get these folks involved?
Well, it's all been through Paul McGilloway is our Angus, who's the best Angus this side of Angus.
hmm.
And Ivan Bodley, who Corey mentioned, and then Kenny Soul, who's our drummer, was actually on tour with AC/DC in both '78 and '80 in a band called Nantucket, and they did a cover of "It's a Long Way to the Top" in 1980, just after he died, and like released it. So he's been a AC/DC guy forever, is still fantastic. So really, it's like everybody knows a few people. So we just started asking, and then when we were posting about it last year, people started saying, "Oh, I'd love to do it if you do it again. I'd love to do it if you do it again." So it's been a very natural and very cool, organic way of getting this together, and we hope for every year to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. This year it's at the Bowery Electric, which is about 200 people. So we want to grow it and make it into a thing that people can count on for at least the birthday, if not more, and have people have it be something to look forward to, a celebration.
And keeping his legacy alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Showing these kids and people how rock and roll works. I think that that's one of the most important things. That's a big gift that not only you give to the fans, but you give to this upcoming group of rock and roll fans. People always, some people say, "Oh, new rock, and rock is this and rock is that." Rock is outstreaming country. Rock is right now outstreaming pop. Everybody's up for rock and roll, man. We want to go out. We want to rock out. Saw Corey's band last night, and you look out into that crowd, and there is no one fan. You've got
No,
men
not at
and
all.
women, young and old,
Right.
racially diverse. There is no one rock and roll fan. Everybody's there with a common feeling, and that's to rock out. That's what rock and roll's all about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and keeping that legacy alive. So we are super lucky, man, being right in the heart of New York City. The second annual official Bon Scott Birthday Bash happens Wednesday, July 9th at the Bowery Electric in New York City. A couple of tickets still remain, so please make sure you get them by visiting ticketweb.com. And then Bon's official site is bonscottofficial.com.
Correct. BonScottOfficial.com, and all the social handles are Bon Scott Official. So if you want to sign up, and we're actually, one of the cool things we do on the website is, we call for people to share stories, and then
Photos.
also
Yep.
and photos, and if you have a ticket stub or anything like that, we'll post it to his website as like a news item, and you can share your story. And we had a guy last year who had this whole series, a couple of rolls of film of Bon and the band at the Great American Music Hall backstage in San Francisco in '77.
Wow.
And he's like, I just
Wow.
found these in my closet. Do you want them? And I'm like, yeah, we want them. And it's like Bon's wearing his jacket, and they're just like goofing around and stuff. And it's just little things like that you can. And then actually a Scottish newspaper, because he's from Scotland originally, a Scottish newspaper picked up that social media post and posted it as like a news item. So it's every little thing that you can do to just keep people, keep him top of mind for people is really the job. It'll never be one thing. It's 100 little things.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Corey, it's you coming out and singing Highway to Hell.
Yes, and I have to find some tight pants.
Don't have to take your shirt off.
I'm not taking my shirt off, but I am going to find some tight pants. I have to. I'm about to leave right now. As soon as this is done, my kids and I are going out to find tight pants.
Very nice.
Guys, I thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Thanks
Terrie.
a lot.
Thanks, Corey.
You're welcome.